Welcome to The Test is History, an intrinsic immersion into Test cricket's most significant spats. This episode focuses on Test number 198, the fifth and final Test of the 1930 Ashes series, which took place at Kennington Oval from the 16th to the 22nd of August 1930. About 80 miles southwest of Sydney, set amongst agricultural land, lies the small New South Wales town of Bowral. In the early 20th century, this became the home of George and Emily Bradman, their 3 daughters and 2 sons. As no boy his age lived nearby, their youngest son, Donald, found himself with no playmates on weekends. Young Don had to make his own entertainment. At the back of the Bradman home at 52 Shepherd Street, there was an 800-gallon water tank set on a round brick stand. From the tank to the laundry door was a distance of about 8 foot, with cemented ground underneath. With doors to the house shut and a roof overhead, this enclosed area became Don Bradman's playground. Don invented a game where he would throw a golf ball at the brick stand and try to hit it on the rebound with a cricket stump. No easy task. The door behind him became the wicket, and designated areas were used for catches or boundaries. Don would devise teams of well-known cricketers such as Johnny Taylor, Jack Gregory and Herbie Collins, and bat for them, incurring his mother's wrath as he would delay mealtimes to finish an important test match. This game was purely to amuse the young boy, but it's easy to imagine that is where the young Don Bradman began to develop the extraordinary eye-hand coordination that would elevate him to great heights in the game of cricket. His love of the game was further developed when he acted as scorer for the Bowral cricket team, who were captained by his uncle. Then one day, the team found themselves a player short. The 12-year-old Don was invited to play, and at the fall of the 8th wicket was sent in, carrying a bat almost as tall as he was. Don was 37 not out when the last wicket fell. The following Saturday the match was continued, and Don was opening Bowral's batting. Not long afterwards, Don persuaded his father to take him to the Sydney Cricket Ground to watch the 5th Test of the 1920-21 series between Australia and England. Don would fondly recall a glorious 170 by Charles McCartney, as well as the superb stroke play of England's Frank Woolley and the smooth rhythm of Australia's pace bowler Ted MacDonald. Don left, telling his father, "I shall never be satisfied until I have played on this ground." Don's hopes were to be fulfilled. He progressed from bush cricket to grade cricket and eventually to first-class cricket, making 100 on debut for New South Wales against South Australia at the Adelaide Oval at the age of 19. Then, in the 1928-29 season, his performances for New South Wales against the English touring team earned him selection for Australia in the opening Ashes Test at Brisbane. It was not a happy debut. Bradman failed twice with the bat, and after Australia were defeated, found himself dropped. It would be the only time in his career that this happened. He was recalled for the 3rd Test, and his second innings 112 made him the youngest player to score a century in Test cricket. His efforts could not prevent England winning the match and retaining the Ashes. However, the margins were becoming tighter, and Bradman's performance in the 5th Test at Melbourne helped steer Australia to a deserved victory. Don Bradman had established himself as part of a promising young Australian team. Few who arrived on English shores for Australia's tour of 1930 had experienced English conditions before. Doubts remained about Bradman's ability to reproduce his form on English pitches. Some questioned his open grip of the bat. Others queried his rotary stance, bringing the bat down at an angle of 45 degrees from the ball. English cricketers such as Percy and Maurice Tate both voiced the opinion that he would need to keep a straighter bat in order to succeed in England. He was still at the crease and lacked a trigger movement, and at just 5'7" with small feet was physically unremarkable. A rather solitary figure who didn't drink or smoke, Bradman seemed an unlikely candidate to tame the best of English bowling in their own backyard. Bradman's response to his critics was swift and emphatic. On Australia's first match of the tour at New Road, Worcester, he scored a double century. He followed this up with 185 not out against Leicestershire. Against Surrey at the Oval, he scored 252 not outs. He also managed 191 against Hampshire at Southampton. Even though Australia lost the opening test of the series at Trent Bridge, Bradman's second innings 131 was an ominous sign of the challenge that England were facing. In the second test at Lord's, his 254 set up a comfortable victory for the tourists. Then, in the third test at Headingley, he hit an incredible 334, a test match record, passing 2,000 runs for the season and 1,000 runs in test cricket along the way. Following this, an admirer presented Bradman with £1,000. However, as his teammates celebrated, Bradman, a non-drinker, preferred to be in his room playing the piano and writing. The Headingley test ended in a draw, and poor weather would also prevent a result in the fourth test at Old Trafford. But as the finale at the Oval would be played to the finish, rain would not be allowed to save England. With the series level at 1-1 and Bradman rampant, the nerves of the England selectors were jingling. The selectors' concerns centred around the skipper, Percy Chapman. Chapman's aggressive batting had been considered irresponsible in a series where the tests had been extended to 4 days, with a timeless match to finish at the Oval. There were also concerns about Chapman's captaincy in the fourth test, with Surrey captain Percy Fender noting shortcomings in his handling of the young leg spinner Ian Peebles, who he considered to have been over-bowled. Former England captain Plum Warner also commented on Chapman's failure to set an effective field for Peebles, as well as his propensity to position bowlers in the deep, meaning they wasted energy chasing when fielding. Furthermore, there was growing disquiet about Chapman's drinking. The selection committee of HDG Leveson Gower, Jack White, Frank Mann, Wilfred Rhodes and Jack Hobbs thus made the controversial decision to drop Chapman. Rumours had abounded that Hobbs would be given the captaincy as a tribute to his service in his final test. But in the event, the captaincy went to probably the only amateur of sufficient quality to step in. Chapman was replaced by Warwickshire's Bob Wyatt. Wyatt was a dour batsman who could also bowl, and although he lacked Chapman's charisma, it was believed he would be better placed to instill discipline into the England team. The change was subject to severe criticism. Former England captain Arthur Gilligan described it as one of the biggest cricket blunders ever made. It is a national calamity. Even more, it is nothing short of a crime. Inside the England dressing room, Gilligan's Sussex teammate Maurice Tate would later say of Chapman that the team was solid for him, and disgusted when we discovered the rumour, all too true, that he was to be dropped. Wyatt himself was subject to at least one death threat. A telegram to him read, "If you play at the Oval, pistols await you." The talk of mass demonstrations would be pure hyperbole. However, it cannot be denied that the news of Chapman's omission was welcomed in the Australian camp, where it was seen as a sign of the selectors' lack of confidence in the England team. England lined up as follows. Their innings would be opened by the legendary duo of Jack Hobbs and Herbert Sutcliffe. In at 3 was the Nottinghamshire batsman, Dodger Weissel. The hugely talented Duleep Singhi was in at 4, followed by the highly rated Wally Hammond at 5. At 6 was Yorkshire left-hander Maurice Leyland. Skipper Bob Wyatt was down at 7, with Sussex's Maurice Tate, widely considered the finest seam bowler in the game, batting at 8. Nottinghamshire lightning fast-paced bowler Harold Larwood was in at 9. Wicket-keeper George Duckworth down at 10, with Middlesex leg spinner Ian Peebles making up the tail. For Australia, captain Bill Woodfull would open with his Victorian counterpart Bill Ponsford. Still only 21, Don Bradman was now a fixture at number 3. The experienced Alan Kippax was in at 4, followed by two 20-year-olds, Archie Jackson at 5 and Stan McCabe at 6. 24-year-old all-rounder Alan Fairfax was in at 7. Wicket-keeper Bertie Oldfield was in at 8, followed by the outstanding leg spinner Clarrie Grimmett at 9. South Australian fast bowler Tim Wall made up the tail, along with the tall left-arm slow-medium bowler Percy Hornibrook of Queensland. Over the forthcoming days, 110,000 people would watch the match. Fans queued around the Oval on the morning of the first day, and a capacity crowd of 30,000 were in attendance as the captains entered the pitch for the toss. Despite the rumours of protests, England's captain Bob Wyatt was given a warm reception as he went out with his Australian counterpart Bill Woodfull. Wyatt called correctly, and England elected to bat first on what looked to be a fine batting wicket. The famous opening pair of Jack Hobbs and Herbert Sutcliffe made their way to the crease. As so often in their careers, they made a solid start for the hosts. England had passed 50 without loss, but with a score on 68, Hobbs was caught by Alan Kippax at short leg off the bowling of Tim Wall. He was 3 short of his half-century. Dodger Weissel was next in, and by lunch England was 71 for 1. After the interval, Weissel and Sutcliffe took the score to 97 before Weissel was trapped LBW by Wall for 13. Dulip Sinchi came to the crease and played with great flair, with drives, hooks and cuts. His half-century came at a run a minute, taking England past 150, but then Alan Fairfax caught him off the bowling of Clarrie Grimmett. Sutcliffe also passed 50, albeit at a much slower pace. Wally Hammond had made just 13 before being bowled by Stan McCabe. Maurice Leyland also fell cheaply, bowled by Grimmett for 3. The tea interval arrived, with England in trouble on 197 for 5 and Sutcliffe on 66 after 4¼ hours of batting. Despite the controversy of his selection as captain, Bob Wyatt was generously applauded as he made his way to the crease. After tea, Sutcliffe began to play more expansively, with shots to the square leg, as well as some fine off-drives. Along with the captain, Bob Wyatt, 119 runs were added without further loss before close of play, with Sutcliffe scoring a fine century. The final session had belonged to England, who finished on 316 for 5, with Sutcliffe unbeaten on 138 and Wyatt not out on 39. A rest day followed. Then Sutcliffe and Wyatt resumed on Monday, taking the score past 350, with Sutcliffe passing 150 and Wyatt making a half-century. Sutcliffe had hardly presented a chance in an excellent innings, although Wyatt was missed by Hornibrook at slip. Then, with the score on 367, Sutcliffe finally fell, caught by wicket-keeper Oldfield off the bowling of Alan Fairfax. His innings had lasted 6¾ hours. It was testament to Sutcliffe's serene composure. He was a batsman who, according to R.C. Robertson Glasgow, would rather miss a train than run for it. By now, Australia's great leg spinner Clarrie Grimmett was coming into the game. A New Zealander by birth, Grimmett moved across the Tasman Sea to play club cricket in Sydney. After moving to Melbourne, he developed further under the guidance of former Australian Test spinner Jack Saunders, playing state cricket for Victoria before eventually moving to South Australia. He would not make his debut for Australia until the age of 33, his small, stooped appearance and crinkled face giving him the nickname The Gnome. Grimmett's wily, deceptive variations would ensure that he became the first bowler to take 200 wickets in tests. He is widely credited with developing the flipper. Born on Christmas Day in 1891, he was popularly described as the greatest ever Christmas present Australia received from New Zealand. Maurice Tate made 10 before being stumped by Oldfield off Grimmett. Then Wyatt, who had batted for 3 hours, departed after a captain's innings of 64, like Sutcliffe, caught by Oldfield off Fairfax. Wicket-keeper George Duckworth made just 3 before being bowled by Fairfax. Harold Larwood's 19 runs took England past 400 before Grimmett trapped him LBW to end the England innings on 405 all out. There was still time in the morning session for the Australian openers Woodfull and Ponsford to score 36, but England missed 2 chances. Woodfull was missed by Duckworth at the wicket on 6, and Duckworth missed a stumping chance with Ponsford on 23. After lunch, Woodfull and Ponsford made progress. Another chance to dismiss Ponsford went begging, which enabled the Victorian to reach his half-century. England would rue the missed opportunities. The openers took Australia past 100, with Ponsford the dominant partner, making his century with an impressive array of driving and cutting. England had every reason to be concerned. Ponsford had twice broken the world record score in first-class cricket, having 2 quadruple centuries to his name. He wielded a heavy bat known as Big Bertha and possessed an insatiable appetite for runs, coupled with extraordinary powers of concentration. He was in his element batting in partnerships, either with Woodfull or Bradman. In fact, Ray Robinson considered Ponsford to be the only batsman who could play in Bradman's company and make it look like a duet. 2 balls after tea, with the score on 159, Ponsford was bowled by Peebles for 110. A short delay for bad light followed, and then England's celebrations were tempered by the sight of Donald George Bradman coming to the wickets. There was another light delay as Woodfull passed his half-century. Then, with the score on 190, Woodfull was caught by Duckworth off Peebles for 54. In came Alan Kippax, who alongside Bradman took the score past 200. Australia finished the day on 215 for 2, with Bradman on 27 and Kippax on 11. Play resumed on Tuesday, with Bradman and Kippax making a stand of 73 for the 3rd wicket. Bradman passed his 50 after an hour and 39 minutes at the crease. With the score on 263, Peebles dislodged Kippax, caught by Wyatt for 28. In came Archie Jackson. The previous year, as a teenager, the prodigiously talented Jackson had become Australia's youngest centurion, scoring 164 on debut against England at the Adelaide Oval. In this innings, he made an uncertain start. Before scoring, he was nearly run out and almost bowled on just 5. Bradman, meanwhile, was fortunate to be missed by Duckworth off the bowling of Hammond on 82. But at 1:05, a late cut off Larwood gave Bradman his century. Back in Bowral, a young girl called Dorothy Pickle was jotting down his scores, and when his century was announced, she swallowed her fountain pen. Her first words on recovery at Sydney Hospital were, "He's a great boy, isn't he?" But such milestones were never enough for Don Bradman. He and Jackson had taken the score to 371 for 3 when rain came at lunchtime, with Bradman on 112. The rest of the day was rain affected, but Australia had time to pass the 400 mark, with Bradman unbeaten on 130 and Jackson on 43. On Wednesday the 20th of August 1930, the world of cricket mourned the death of the first ever Test centurion Charles Bannerman, who had passed away in Sydney. At the Oval, the newest centurion had to negotiate a difficult morning. Bradman and Jackson had taken the score to 458 when a run-out chance occurred, but Maurice Leyland returned the ball to the wrong end. The express-paced Harold Larwood of Nottinghamshire was bowling for England. Larwood's account was as follows. A spot of rain had fallen, the ball was popping. My great friend, the late Archie Jackson, stood up to me, getting pinked once or twice, and he never flinched. With Bradman, it was different. Following the overnight rain, Harold Larwood was extracting bounce from the pitch and had hit Bradman and Jackson on the body. Jackson was watchful and restrained. His 50 took 240 balls, but he played his part in a record stand for the 4th wicket. He eventually fell for 73, caught by Sutcliffe off the bowling of Wyatt. Alas, Archie Jackson's talents would never be fulfilled. He was to play in just one more Test series before succumbing to tuberculosis at the age of only 23. Many believe that had he lived, he would have become one of the greatest batsmen of all time. Seeing Bradman hit on the chest by Larwood, the Surrey captain Percy Fender, watching from the stands, was drawing a similar conclusion to Larwood about a potential weakness in the Australians' armour. Fender considered that Bradman had started to draw away from Larwood. He would communicate this to his Surrey teammate and future England captain Douglas Jardine, sowing the seeds of a controversial tactic to attempt to restrict Bradman in the future. But in the present, Bradman was not to be denied. At 12:55, he reached his double century, his third of the series, breaking the record of Wally Hammond's 2 Test double hundreds in all. Bradman had been joined by Stan McCabe, the youngest player in the Australian team. McCabe's driving began to overshadow even the great Bradman. Lunch arrived with Bradman on 228. 20 minutes after lunch, Bradman finally fell. An attempted square cut off Larwood found the grateful gloves of George Duckworth. He was out for 232 and the score was 570 for 5. Bradman had batted for 7 hours and 18 minutes, facing 417 balls and hitting 16 fours. No wonder Australian skipper Bill Woodfull would comment, "We owe a tremendous lot to Bradman." For Harold Larwood, the dismissal of Bradman was scant reward. In 3 home tests, his 4 wickets had come at an average of 73. His failure to contain Bradman ensured that the Nottinghamshire fast bowler would not be considered for international duty for some time to come. In the meantime, McCabe continued his assault, but after reaching a 50, which included 9 fours, he was caught by Duckworth off Hammond with the score on 594. It was just reward for Hammond, who had bowled better than his figures suggested, but the ordeal for the exhausted England bowling attack was still not over. Alan Fairfax and Bertie Oldfield put on 76 in 65 minutes before Peebles removed Oldfield, caught by Larwood for 34. Peebles then dismissed his leg-spinning opposite number, Clarrie Grimmett, LBW for 6. Tim Wall fell in exactly the same way, without scoring. It brought up 6 wickets for Peebles, who had developed a reputation as the greatest bowler that Scotland had ever produced, and after Grimmett, the most effective leg break bowler in the game. However, his success had come at a cost of over 200 runs. When Percy Hornibrook was caught by Duckworth off Maurice Tate at 5:30, the innings was finally complete. Tate's 1 wicket for 153 were the most expensive figures of a Test career, which included over 150 wickets. The 35-year-old Tate was considered the finest swing bowler of his generation, but although he had bowled economically, conceding just over 2 runs and over, Bradman was a puzzle he had been unable to solve. It would be his last appearance in an Ashes Test. Australia were all out for a mammoth 695, with Alan Fairfax finishing on 53 not out. They had a first innings lead of 290 runs. England had been out in the field for nearly 2 days and had to bat for 45 minutes before the close of play. Fearing that the departing Jack Hobbs may be exhausted from the occasion, skipper Bob Wyatt offered to send in another batsman, but Hobbs refused. And so, for the final time in his illustrious Test career, amidst fading light, Jack Hobbs emerged from the Oval Pavilion, which had witnessed many of his finest accomplishments, and walked to the crease, accompanied by his long-standing opening partner, Herbert Sutcliffe. The huge ovation of the crowd was tempered with a mood of melancholy at the realisation that an era was coming to an end. The last icon of the Golden Age was finishing his career at his home ground, and as the applause died down, Bill Woodfull, the Australian captain, gathered his team around and gave the master 3 cheers as a tribute. It was a moment laden with emotion, and Hobbs was visibly moved, taking his hat off to acknowledge the applause. It was not to be a fairy tale ending. both openers made nervous starts. With the score on 8, Sutcliffe survived a missed chance at the wicket off the bowling of Fairfax. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the occasion was affecting Hobbs. He was almost run out when he stopped a ball dead from Tim Wall and began to run. Wall kicked the ball and narrowly missed the stumps, with Hobbs well out of his crease. In the next over, he faced the medium pace of Alan Fairfax. Hobbs attempted a pull shot off an in-swinging ball, but bottom-edged it onto his stumps. He was out for 9. He paused sadly, then made his way off the pitch. The Oval crowd, although disappointed, cheered with affection as he disappeared for the final time. Even his opponent, Don Bradman, regretted his dismissal. "I wanted to see him make a good score in his final appearance," Bradman later wrote. Bad light stopped play at 6:15. England were 24 for 1. Rain fell throughout Thursday, preventing any play, so the match was resumed in sunshine on Friday. With 37 on the board, Dodger Weissel was dismissed, caught by Hornibrook off Grimmett for 10. The flamboyant Nottinghamshire batsman was a latecomer to Test cricket, and this was to be his final appearance for England. The following November, Weissel, who was known for enjoying nights out at music venues, suffered a fall on a dance floor. He contracted blood poisoning after cutting his elbow, causing his tragic death at the age of 43. Replacing Weissel in the England's batting order was Duleep Singhji, who played like a man in form. Sutcliffe and Duleep added 81 in 95 minutes, and England passed 100. Then Sutcliffe reached 50 off 151 balls, having scored 4 fours. But with the score on 118, Sutcliffe was caught by Fairfax at second slip off a ball from Hornibrook that popped up and came off the shoulder of his bat. He was out for 54 and Wally Hammond came to the crease. By the luncheon interval, England were 126 for 3 and still some way behind Australia. By now, the wet wicket was perfect for the slow-medium left-arm bowling of Australia's Percy Hornibrook. Even the usually fluent Duleep Singhji began to encounter difficulties. 4 short of his 50, Duleep was caught at forward short leg by Kippax off Hornibrook with the score on 135. Hornibrook, the Queensland spinner, had demonstrated an uncanny ability to dismiss Duleep, a skill that the more highly reputed Grimmett seemed to lack. Sensing the need to dominate, Hammond went after Hornibrook, hitting him for 5 fours in 3 overs. He had been joined by Maurice Leyland, and together they made 54 in 40 minutes, before Leyland was bowled by Hornibrook for 20. It was 189 for 5, and an innings defeat seemed inevitable. Captain Bob Wyatt helped Hammond push the score past 200, but he was soon gone, bowled by Hornibrook for 7. Maurice Tate failed to score before being run out when Kippax sent in an excellent return from cover point. Harold Larwood was caught by McCabe for 9 to give Hornibrook his 5th wicket. A dentist by trade, Hornibrook had been a latecomer to the international scene and by his own admittance suffered from inconsistency. However, he had achieved his first and only 5-wicket haul in Test cricket. Hammond continued to resist, passing his 50, but was now running out of partners. George Duckworth, who had suffered a miserable match behind the wicket, was bowled by Hornibrook for 15. England's innings was ended when Fairfax caught Hammond off Hornibrook for 60. England were all out for 251, with Hornibrook taking 7 for 92 in what would be his final appearance in Test cricket. Australia had won the match by an innings and 39 runs, and with that they had regained the Ashes on the 33rd birthday of their captain Bill Woodfull. The 1930 Oval Test represents something of a watershed. A successful period for Percy Chapman's England, spearheaded by the bowling of Maurice Tate, was coming to an end. Chapman would return as skipper for a tour of South Africa in 1930-31, but thereafter played no more Test cricket. Meanwhile, the young Australian team, ably led by Woodfull, and with the incomparable Bradman as the jewel in its crown, became the team to beat. Another torch was being passed. The greatest batsman of the Golden Age, Jack Hobbs, whose career coincided with the final days of W.G. Grace, was now saying his farewell. Hobbs had set some records that will probably never be equalled, the most first-class runs and centuries. He had elevated batting standards, being the first batsman to maintain an average exceeding 50 over a prolonged Test career, a statistical measure still sought after in the modern age. But while Hobbs had discovered new horizons for mortal batsmen to explore, his successor would enjoy dominance that no batsman before or since has come close to emulating. His name was Donald George Bradman, and his era had begun.